All right, we're back. Graveyard Shift Movie Podcast, episode number 157. And this week, oh boy, uh, I watched a movie called Home Movie from 2008. Uh, and the only reason I watched it was because I wanted to watch a movie called Near Dark, which you may have heard of it. It's starring Bill Paxton, R.I.P. the man Bill Paxton. Um, and I've always heard how great Near Dark is, and I've seen like still images from it, and it looked really interesting. It's like a vampire movie, even though I think there's a thing with the movie where they never actually mention vampires, but it's very clear it's a vampire movie. Um, but I kept wanting to watch it, and I think I tried to watch it a couple months ago, but it's not streaming anywhere. Like you can't find it. I looked it up and it said it was on a streaming service called Vudu. And I went to the App Store to look at Vudu, and it had a 2.5 star rating of 39 reviews. And I was like, this seems like a fucking virus setup if I've ever seen it. I was like, I'm not going on Vudu. So, unlike the previous time I tried to watch this, I think the last time I tried to watch it, you couldn't even get like a DVD copy of it or anything. I managed to find there was one left in stock on Amazon.com. I managed to get a Near Dark DVD. Should be here today as I'm filming this, actually. Uh, and so next week, hopefully, it should be Near Dark. But the backup was because I was like, well, time to go on Shudder and find a fucking movie to talk about. And I came across Home Movie, which I had seen somewhere before because I recognized the uh, poster. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think the reason I recognized the poster is because I was watching a Red Letter Media video on Parasite like a while ago, and the Parasite poster is like the family with their eyes blacked out, and I think maybe one of them mentioned Home Movie, and it had the same poster with the eyes blacked out on the parents and stuff. But I saw it and I was like, it's 76 minutes, perfect runtime. I was like, fuck it, let's watch Home Movie. And so I watched it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It got progressively worse as time went along. About halfway through the movie, I was still like, all right, feeling positive about it. But then it just like, there's nothing new, if that makes sense. Like, it goes exactly how you would expect a movie about two twin kids who something evil is wrong with them. And it goes exactly how you would expect it to go. Like, nothing changes. There's a point near the end that I thought it was gonna be different, but then it just immediately goes back to like, oh no, it's still gonna end the way you would expect it to end. They try to play with there's a story that the dad tells, a fairy tale, about like 20 minutes into the movie, that tries to add like an extra layer of mysticism, or like, ooh, something else is going on beneath the surface. Um, but yeah, there's nothing new about it. Yeah, it was evil kids doing evil kid stuff. Like, I feel like I've watched like 8 or 9 evil kid movies that all go this exact same way for the channel. Um, and there was never a moment where I was like, okay, now we're getting into something new. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. Like I said, I was halfway through the movie. It was still looking at like a 6, and it slowly like declined over time. And by the end of the movie, I was like, I don't like this movie. Um, Yeah, oh, fun. Also, the whole reason I bring up the Near Dark thing, one, to say next week we'll watch Near Dark, but also the main character in this movie, the dad in this movie, is played by Adrian Pasteur, who, funny enough, when I was looking at his IMDb, he is in Near Dark, and I was like, no shit, how is that fucking? He plays Caleb in Near Dark. So next week, look forward to this guy in in Near Dark, which his character in this is fucking weird. He keeps throwing out these accents for no damn reason. Uh, yeah, it's just yeah, his character's wonky in this. Um, but anyway, yeah, home movie. It's not very good. It's not terrible. It's not the worst thing you'll ever see, but nothing new is about it. It's directed by what was his name? Fuck, I don't remember his name. Hold on, let me look it up. But the whole reason I'm bringing him up is because he was in Shutter Island. He had like a 2-minute scene in Shutter Island. He played Peter Breen, I think was how you pronounce his name. He's the scene where like Leo and Mark Ruffalo are interrogating him in like the fucking when they're just asking a bunch of prisoners about like the case they're looking for and stuff. And I think the guy like murdered his wife or something. Like that's what he was in there for. Christopher Denham or Denham, however you want to pronounce it. But yeah, and as soon as I saw Peter Breen, I remembered that character, so I was very excited to see he directed this movie. Um, but yeah, so anyway, it's not good. It's not terrible, but you know, it's nothing you haven't seen before, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so hey, spoiler warning for Home Movie from 2008. I'm gonna ruin everything about it. So if you've never seen it before, you have been warned. This coffee is delicious, by the way. Obviously, you want to know I'm drinking coffee, unless I told you. So I had to tell you. It's French vanilla creamer, 2 sugars. That's how I like it, baby. God damn. All right, so the movie opens up with a bunch of shots of fucking roadkill and shit on the ground. We then go into like the videotape settings where we see a bunch of different home movies saved, and we'll go into each one individually. But it's like Halloween, Valentine's Day, New Year's, like all this shit. The first one we start off with is Halloween, and we see the family for the first time. It's 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I think the girl's name was Emily. I do not remember the boy's name. They're both 10, if I remember correctly. That's how old they are. They're 10 years old. There's the husband and the mom. I don't know their fucking names. It doesn't matter. They're all dressed up for Halloween. They have a cake for Halloween, which I guess maybe some people do. And they have the candles lit, and they're like, all right, kids, blow out the candles. And they keep blowing the candles, but they're like those trick candles where they just keep coming back on, you know? And so then finally, like, the little boy just takes a cup of water and just pours it over the cake. And I was like, oh, okay, you know? They then go directly into playing the game of hide and seek down in their cellar that they have, which I believe is the only time we ever go into the cellar, which I kept waiting for it to pop back up. But it never does. Like, the cellar is just not a main character in this movie like I thought it would be. They're playing hide and seek with the kids in the basement. Or they call it like ghost hunting because the kids are dressed as ghosts. Eventually they find the kids, and then the kids like charge them and they're all wrestling around on the ground. And then the mom goes, ow, and they stop, and she goes, did you just bite me? And then that's the end of that tape. A little later on, they're playing baseball in the yard, and the little boy like hits the fucking ball and it goes flying into the woods, you know? So the mom has to go find it, and when she's out there, she runs into her daughter, who's in this like clubhouse that her and her brother have built, and it has like a sign on it that says like no parents allowed and shit. Uh, and the mom is talking to the daughter, and the daughter just like won't say anything. None of the kids have said anything, and I wrote down like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I was like, why are these kids so weird already? Like, I thought, first off, I thought it was just going to be one of them. I thought it was the boy. I think I read the description of the movie wrong, and I thought it was just the boy who was going to, like, be fucked up or something, you know? But no, it's both of them, and they're both immediately already fucking weird. Like, I thought it was going to be progressively, like, they get weirder as time goes on, but no, they're already fucking freaks. Yeah, so she talks to the kid, and she's like, "Oh, can I come in the clubhouse?" And the kid like shakes her head like, "Fuck no, you can't come in the fucking clubhouse." So eventually the mom gets the ball. She goes back. They play more baseball for a while. Eventually, the dad fucking hits a home run off of his son who's pitching to him, and he like runs around the bases, and he's like, "Fuck yeah, I scored that shit." So then the next pitch that the kid gives, he just throws a fucking rock at his dad's face. And his dad's like, he just threw a fucking rock at me. And the tape ends there. There is a great story of, well, not great, but my dad works for a propane company. He's like Hank Hill. But he drives around and he delivers gas and shit. And as a little kid, I was with him filling up his truck one time. And the parking lot is a bunch of stones, and there's like a little creek, and we were throwing stones and shit. And apparently, I whipped it, and my hand, it just went straight sideways and just hit him in the fucking head. And still to this day, legit, over like 15 years later, he's like, "Hey, remember that time you fucking hit me in the face with a goddamn, with a rock?" And I'm like, "It never happened, Dad." But it probably happened, but I can't ever admit that to him. So then, the next tape, he's filming his kids raking, and he does a very offensive Asian accent that I will not recreate, but I will play the clip here.
Today, we're going to learn about the ancient art of raking. Raking was first discovered by a Chinese mountain task force in 1802.
And I was like, alright, dude, I don't know what you got going on right now, but this shit is wild. He does this for the whole movie. He'll just put on an Irish accent or some he's just very over the top and like, I honestly, he's so fucking weird in this movie. I half expected the whole twist to be in the movie to be like, oh, this is all like the dad is like keeping these people as slaves. And, he's this fucking crazy dude or whatever. But it's not. But he's such a fucking weird character. Like, he runs around dressed in a bunny outfit and shit at one point on Easter. And he's so, like, hyper and everything. Like, he was just so weird. I was like, what the fuck? Also, that's the other thing, is I was like, oh, man, what's the twist in this movie gonna be? But there's not really ever a twist. Once again, I mean, maybe if you're just really fucking... You just don't know how to see shit coming. But like, there's one point in the movie where they'll try to be like, everything's good now, and then of course it'll be like, no, it isn't. And maybe that's a twist, like, oh, they're not really okay. But it's like, yeah, of course they were okay, quotation marks, okay, for like 5 minutes before shit hit the fan again. Yeah, there was never a twist in the movie that I kept waiting for, and I was disappointed in it. So, yeah, that raking scene doesn't mean shit, by the way. I only mentioned it because of that Asian accent. They do get a laugh out of me, though, after this, where this dude, it's his wife's, it's him and his wife's 10-year anniversary. So I thought he was making her breakfast in bed. But it turns out it's just a cheese platter, and I think he has some wine. And he goes into where she's taking a shower, and he has this rose, and he does the whole psycho thing, like stabbing at the shower. And he's like, happy anniversary, And then this whole scene is just to drop a bunch of knowledge on us. where we'll find out. So the mom is a psychiatrist, basically, okay? And the dad is a pastor. He's heavily, he's like, God all the way. And so the movie was like, okay, how do we tell people what, both of these parents do? And their answer was to have one line of dialogue when this lady is in the shower where she goes, I'm a doctor and you're a pastor. And I was like, I guess that's one way of doing it. And yeah, so they're like, I'm a doctor and you're a pastor. They also mention in here that they only moved out here in the middle of the woods 6 months ago. There's also a thing in the scene I want to complain about, not for the movie, but just fucking Shudder as a streaming program. So, and maybe it's better on like a computer, okay? But I'm watching this Shudder on Xbox on the TV, okay? Shudder on Xbox is the only app where I have this problem, where they say something in here as they're talking and she's in the shower that I didn't hear, and she like gives him a look, and I was like, oh, that must have been like an important line. So I go to reverse, and on Shudder, the reverse just doesn't fucking work on Xbox with like a controller. It's just like you have to hold the left stick to back up, but if you hold it for like a second to where just go back a couple of seconds, that doesn't work. It just won't move. So you have to hold it down, but then it'll skip like 2 minutes back, and it's just a fucking mess. No other app. Prime doesn't have that problem. Netflix doesn't have that problem. HBO, whatever, fucking Tubi, none of them have that. Peacock, none of them have that. But for some reason, Shudder has the worst reverse I've ever seen. And yeah, obviously, if you're on a computer, you can just click on the timeline to get where you want to go. But it's just so terrible on the, I don't know why it's that bad, but it's awful. Anyway, the line of dialogue I missed, by the way, was just the dad being like, oh, we can make softcore porn. So it wasn't important at all. It was just him making like a shitty joke. So also there's a weird thing here where he gets up at one point and it's like, oh, he's going to get in the shower with her. And we can see that they like blur out her body behind the curtain. Like I noticed it when she was back there, and I was like, it looks like they're blurring like around where her body is. And when he stands up to like start taking off his pants, he steps into frame where the blur is, and it's like, yeah, they're blurring that out for some, like, I was like, it was just weird that there's a random blur effect there. Yeah, whatever. So he goes to get in the shower with her. Before he can do that, he hears the dog start barking. Apparently this family has a dog that they just now chose to mention. They go up to the kid's bedroom where the dog is barking, and they go inside, and the two kids are sleeping together in the bed. And the dude's like, oh, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen. But the wife is like, they're too old to be sleeping in the bed, And he like turns to her to tell her, nah, it's cute. And then he turns back around, and now both of the kids are standing up, and it looks like either one or both of them is pissing their pants. And then it like does this weird editing where it looks like the dad just fucking like backs out of the room and goes outside.
It's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
And stuff, and then it just cuts, and I was like, okay, we're doing some weird shit here, what's going on, We then go to the dad and the two kids in bed and the mom, and he's telling them a bedtime story about this dragon who wanted to eat a bunch of fucking little kids, and so he disguised himself as the little kids. Like, the little kids are having a Halloween party. They put on these masks and shit. So the dragon puts on the same costume. And he goes with the kids. And at first they're like, you're the fucking dragon. You're not fooling us. And he's like, no, I'm not, you know? And they're like, take off your mask, show us who you really are. And he's like, no, I can't, you know, I'm not going to do that. And so he like plays with them and shit and gains their trust. And just when they're like, oh man, you really are one of us, he's like, no, I'm not. And he fucking takes off the mask and he eats them and shit. He's telling this whole story in his Irish accent that I mentioned earlier, by the way. Yeah, so I was like, okay, so that's going to be a thing throughout the movie now, with, you know, this dragon story. As he's telling it, though, he has like this stuffed dragon with him, and there is a thing throughout the movie where every time there's like a scene or something creepy going on, that stuffed dragon is always somewhere in the shot. You can always find it. And so I thought that was interesting. We then get a video diary of the mom, who is doing her psychiatrist shit, and she's talking about a kid who was 11 who was diagnosed with some fucking disease where he had like, you know, he couldn't talk well and he had hallucinations and shit. And we'll learn kind of going on that this is her trying to figure out how to help her own kids. And she's going through like different cases that kind of sound similar to what her kids are exhibiting, to find medicine or, you know, any type of thing that could help with whatever their problem is. So that's why she's talking about this fucking kid. And I think she talks about how they, you know, helped them out or whatever. And she's like, maybe that's something we could try out. We then go to Thanksgiving. That's next. We're just blazing through time here. And the dad is trying to... oh, no, first, I'm sorry. The kids show up to Thanksgiving dressed as pilgrims. And they have like a little brown paper bag. And it's like what they're bringing to the table, you know? And so the dad takes it out and he opens it up. And it's 2 buns. And in between the 2 buns are 2 goldfish that we saw earlier in the fish tank. And that's what they brought to Thanksgiving, was a fish or a goldfish sandwich. And the dad's like, oh my God. There's so many scenes in this movie of like the dad seeing something gross the kids have done. And then like you just hear him off camera, like throwing up. So then they're still trying to have Thanksgiving. So they have like everyone at the table and the dad's trying to say grace and shit. But the kids just keep throwing stuff off of the table. They throw like a plate and like a knife and shit. They throw, and this is all like synchronized too. They're throwing this stuff off exactly the same way at exactly the same time. They throw it off their cups at one point, and the dad like smacks his hand on the table, and it looks like the whole place shakes, and it like hard cuts. Like you don't see his hand hits the table, everything shakes, and it hard cuts. And I was like, ooh, what was that? We missed something there. We come back up, and they're sitting at the table, and the dad keeps trying to say grace, and they throw off like some rolls or something. So the parents just give up. They just get up and turn off the table, or the video camera. After they do that, it rewinds back to where he smacked on the table, and I was like, oh, we're gonna see what happened when it cut. But no, it was just the same. It was just the same scene. It just cut again. I was like, okay, you know, whatever. Also, is at this point I was texting podcast alumni Bags, and we were just talking about shit. He was a work board, and he fucking, I was talking about some shit, and I go, oh, I'm watching this home movie now. Watching this movie now called Home Movie with these 2 weird ass twins, like being assholes to their parents. That's how I described it to Bags. And Bags goes, is that the one where the twins are like telekinetic? And I said, man, it'll probably end up being some shit like that. So far, it's just them putting goldfish between 2 buns and giving it to their parents as a sandwich. And so the whole movie, I kept waiting for the twins to be telekinetic. But they never were. There's one scene later where the daughter is like sitting at a window and the dad is like, the shade's down, and then the shade like shoots up, and I was like, oh, this is it, the telekinesis is gonna kick in. But no, they were never. So I don't know what movie Bags was thinking about, but yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, that scene ends. The next scene goes to them in the tool shed, and their dad is showing them how to like make knots in rope and how to pick locks as like a Boy Scout thing. As he's doing that, he has this little like frog that he found, and he like hands it to the daughter, and he's showing the son how to tie a rope. And when he turns back around, he looks, and the daughter has put the frog in like the vice grip thing. I don't remember the name for the fucking tool or the thing. Is anyway, you'll know what it's the thing that's mounted. It's the thing that in Casino they put that guy's head in and they like tighten it up and shit, you know. But she put the frog in it and squished the frog and killed the frog, and he's like, oh god, you know. So now we go. It's Christmas time. They're going to pick up a Christmas tree. And as they're driving to the tree farm, the kids actually make noise for the first time. They haven't made a sound this whole movie, but finally they're talking to each other in their own language. They can speak their own, you know, it's like weird little kid shit. You have your own language, and they're drawing shit on pieces of paper. The mom is like, cut that shit out. I don't like that shit at all. But the dad's like, you know, let them have their fun, you know. So it's Christmas morning now, and apparently on Christmas morning in this household, they squirt each other with squirt guns, which I've never seen, never wanted to do on Christmas morning, but the dad really wants to do it. So they're having like a squirt gun fight in the house, which that's just not good. They're just so, you know, it's going to get on the carpet. The carpet's going to get moldy. And the dad chases one of the kids up into their room. And when he goes upstairs, he comes into the room and they see that they've crucified the family cat. Which, first off, I don't think you've ever seen a cat in the whole movie. But apparently they had a cat. And we then get a scene where it cuts to the mom once again in her office doing her video diary, and she says the kids crucified the family cat. And I don't know why I found it so funny, but god did that make me laugh, that line.
Jack and Emily crucified the family cat.
So yeah, in this scene the mom's like, you know, talking about more shit where she's like, oh, the kids might have Asperger's. They're showing like person disorder, what is it, anti-despondent, you know, and she's just talking about all the shit that they could have and what could be wrong with them, and still once again trying to figure out how to help them. After that we get a scene of the parents getting dressed up, and it's New Year's, and the dad wants to go out in the city for New Year's, but the mom wants to just stay in and shit. And he goes, just say it. You don't want to go into the city because there's a chance we might run into someone we used to know. And then they're going to ask us how the kids are. And we got to try to figure out a way to not be like, oh, hey, they keep murdering fucking animals. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. And so he like leaves. And she takes the video camera and goes out into like, I'm going to say it's a greenhouse, even though it's probably not a greenhouse. But shout out to the greenhouse. And she's like smoking a cigarette, and she's talking about how she feels like she doesn't know her family anymore. And she's like, I don't know who they are anymore. I don't know what this life is. Like, I'm fucking lost and shit, you know? And then she hears the kids like screaming. And she runs inside, and we see the two kids and the dad in bed, and the two kids are covered in fucking bite marks on their arm. And like they're bleeding and shit, and the mom's like, who did this? She's like, did dad do this? And the dad like tries to talk, but the mom's like, don't fucking say anything. Did he do this? And the kids say that the man in the closet did it. And that is the first, I think, actual line of dialogue that the kids have said the whole movie. So they say the man in the closet did it. So now the mom's talking to the camera again about how her husband apparently was abused as a child. And she says the people who were abused as children are more likely to abuse their own kids when they have them. She also says how her husband drinks too much and shit. As she's saying this, we get a scene intercut with that of the dad like drinking Jack Daniels and like slapping himself in the face and shit. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Do you guys ever drink your coffee and then like a little bead of coffee rolls down the side of the mug and you lick it like to to stop it from getting to the bottom? I do that shit all the time. Yeah, so then she says that, you know, she knows the kids have overactive imaginations, so there is no man in the closet, but the bite marks are real. So who's been biting the children? We then cut to Valentine's Day, and the mom is coming home. Apparently she's been in Philadelphia. I don't know where they are relative to Philadelphia, but the dad just says, welcome back from Philadelphia, you know? And she comes in, she's pissed off. She says that she's going to take the kids to her mom's house, and she's accusing the dad of abusing the kids. She says that's why they're fucked up, because you've been abusing them, and all this shit. And he's like, I didn't fucking bite them. I didn't do any of this shit. What are you talking about? And she goes, well, if you didn't bite them, who did? The man in the closet? And then the phone right next to them rings. And I was like, oh shit, it's going to be the man from the closet. No, it turns out it's the school calling, and the kids have been expelled because they locked a boy in the bathroom and just kept fucking biting him. And basically were like trying to eat this kid in the bathroom. They bring the kids home. The mom gives the son a Rorschach test. We don't see his answers to any of the Rorschach answers or anything. We just see her giving him the pieces of paper, and then she tries to take the paper back from him, and he like grabs her arm real fucking aggressive and shit. We then go to a family meeting, and the mom's busting out pills. She busts out, it's 3 different pills. She goes, you take one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening. She goes, don't take more than one, or you'll go into what we call a living coma. And I was like, what the fuck kind of pills are you giving these kids, lady? As this is happening, and she's explaining these pills, this is intercut with the dad putting on his little pastor outfit and going around the house and sprinkling everything in holy water and shit. And he had talked kind of earlier. I think it was when the mom was accusing him of abusing the kids. How he believes something evil was in the house and shit. So you get 2 different sides here. You get the medical side and you get the religious side. And they're both, you know, fighting whatever is happening here, but in very different ways. We then get a cool scene where the dad goes to the closet, where the man in the closet supposedly is, and the dragon that I mentioned is hanging in the closet, and he closes the closet and locks it, and he's like, stay out of the house. And he turns around and he hears like a moan, and he turns back and the closet is wide open again. The dragon's still in there. He starts cursing and shit. He's like, get the fuck out of the house. He turns around and now his 2 kids are sitting on the bed laughing at him. So he goes over to them and ties them up, and gets on them and is sprinkling holy water on them and is like, get out of here, you fucking demons. Also, the kids are like trying to fight back, but it's the most pathetic. It's no Exorcist possession thing going on here. It's like they're like and like just barely waving their arms. So he's doing his like self-appointed exorcist. The mom comes running in and like jumps on him, but he's like, it's okay, it's over now, it's over. And so they're like on the floor crying and shit. And then we cut to 2 months later. It's now Easter, and they're talking about how ever since that day, the kids have been great. They're talking. They're, you know, being affectionate. They've even made friends with that kid that they locked in the bathroom and were biting. And so it's one of those things where, like, okay, well, what really worked? Was it the pills that presumably they're still taking? Or was it the exorcism, you know? So the mom, she's like talking over all this, and she's like, I have successfully treated my kids. The dad goes in. This is when he's dressed in his bunny costume. He goes into their bedroom where they have their friend in there, the one that they bit, and they're going to do like an Easter egg hunt. And they're like playing video games and shit. And sure enough, they're like talking. They come over and hug him. And they're like telling how, you know, we love you and all this shit. They're smiling and stuff. He goes downstairs. He's talking to his wife. They're talking to the camera about how, you know, 10 years ago we met on Easter, and, you know, talking about how they met and all this shit. They're having a good time. And eventually it's time for the Easter egg hunt, so they call up to the kids, but the kids don't answer. So the dad goes upstairs, and he goes in their room, and he sees that they've set up mannequins where they were sitting, and they've tied ropes, much like the ropes that the dad was showing them how to tie, and they've crawled out of the window, and they've gotten away. So the dad runs out of the house. He runs in the woods towards their clubhouse, and he comes across the family dog's head on a stick. So they've killed the dog. I don't know when, but it's dead now. He goes into their little shack that they have that says like no parents and stuff, and we see all these drawings of all this different violent shit. And so that's probably what they were drawing on those papers in the back seat when the mom wanted them to show her what it was, but the dad was like, let them have their fun. We also see a sheet, and on the sheet is a big painting of the dragon, once again, that, you know, from the story, and the dude whips the sheet off, and we see the kids around the table, and in the middle of the table is the little boy, who they have a garbage bag on him, and they're about to, like, kill him and shit. And the dad is able to stop him. We then cut to the parents talking to the camera, and they say how the kids are going to be tried as minors, and they're going to be in juvenile hall until they're 18, you know, for attempted murder. This is their last night in the house, and all this shit. And the dad's like crying, and he's like, you know, through all of this shit, you know, I still love them. They're still my kids, which is a nice little touch. Like, it is a very it's been forever since I watched the movie, so I can't attest how good the actual movie is, but there's a movie with this guy. Selena Gomez is in the movie, but this guy talking to his son on the phone, and his son's like about to go to school, and he's like, all right, I love you, you know. And the son goes to school, and there's a school shooting, and his son's dead and shit. And it shows, like, the guy being all depressed and stuff, so you're like, okay, you know. And spoiler, the twist is, he goes to, like, the gravesite, and his son was the school shooter. His son shot up and shot himself, you know. And so he goes through this whole, where everyone, like, calls his son a monster and all this shit. And he's still like, it's my son, you know. I can't help that I still love him and all this shit. And it's very the Dahmer show that I went through, like, you know, even though Dahmer's dad was still very clearly like a piece of shit and weird dude, and he tried to profit off of what his son did to other people, you could tell he genuinely, like, still loved his kid through all, like, it's this parent, you know, parental instinct that no matter what, you know, your kid does, you still love them, unless you're Marvin Gaye's dad, which which if you're Marvin Gaye's dad, you're just an asshole. Okay, don't be Marvin Gaye's dad. But if you're not, then you're okay with your kids, I don't know, chopping up dogs and shit like in this movie. So you know, so they're crying and shit. We then cut to the kids who now have the camera, and they're like, hey, I'm Emily, and I'm Jack, or whatever the boy's name was, and this is our movie. And we see them going around setting up shit. They got knives, baseball bats, they're tying ropes. They put like some shit in a pot and they're boiling this pot in the kitchen. They then go upstairs and we see that they've already tied up their parents with like bungee cords and stuff. And they fucking beat the fuck out of the dad with a baseball bat. And then they're dragging him down the stairs and I was like, oh, is he dead already? Like, I can't tell. But they sit him up at the kitchen table and no, he's not dead. They leave him sitting at the kitchen table. The mom manages to get loose from whatever she was in and comes running down the stairs. And he's like, go get the camera. It has a flashlight on it. You can use that. So she runs to get the camera and she turns it towards her face and turns on the light. And up above her on the stairs, we see the kids in their Halloween mask costumes that they wore at the very beginning of the movie. She goes up the stairs to talk to them and they like stab her in the arm with a knife and she falls down the stairs and shit. She gets up and like runs into, oh, funny enough, I think she does run into the cellar here. So the cellar did come back. I take it back. She runs into the cellar and they're like looking for her and she fucking ambushes them and like stops them. And this is what I mean. I was like, okay, the movie's going to take, you know, because the whole movie I'm like, okay, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and then they're going to kill the parents at the end. But then the mom stops them and they're like sitting at the table and I was like, oh, okay, maybe the parents will actually get out of this, you know? There's a great moment here where she's like, if either one of you move, I'll fucking break every bone in your goddamn body. She's like waving the baseball bat at them. She says that, you know, you two are going to leave this house. You two aren't our children. I don't know what you are, but you're not our children. And so that's the whole thing. It's like, what are these kids really? You know, it's the whole dragon story. It's like these kids have made themselves look like who they know. And the period of time where they were good, like the 2 months, that's the dragon like getting on the good side of the kids to earn their trust before, you know, he can fucking eat them. As she's talking though, the dad like went to go upstairs, and then he just like falls down and he's like, and she hears him and she goes in to see him like knocked down on the stairs and she's like, what the fuck did you do? And then, like, the smoke alarm starts going off, and she goes over, and we see that the thing in the pot was all those pills that, you know, the kids have been taking. So the gas has been filling up this fucking house. So the dad's passed out, and so now the mom is feeling the effects. The kids are perfectly fine, so that adds to them being the supernatural fucking being, you know? She busts a window out of the front door so she can unlock the door and go out. And then the kids just like take a camera and follow her out into the woods. And we get like 5 minutes of her just stumbling around looking dumb out in the woods. She's like rolling around with her baseball bat and shit. She eventually gets out to a road and there's an ice cream truck going by. It's daytime, by the way, as this happens. It's like morning. So they've been out in the woods for a while. She tries to wave it down, but it doesn't see her, and it goes driving by. She ends up passing out. It's morning time. It's now like daylight, and the kids are dragging her back in this wagon. And then they drag her back to the house, and then we cut to the parents tied down by bungee cords on the kitchen table in the garbage bags, much like that kid was earlier. And the two kids sitting next to them with like a knife and a fork. Also, the mom's bungee cords were very loose. And, like, she's thrashing around, and you can see, like, her feet are not trapped at all. Like, she could very easily get her feet out if she wanted to. But, yeah, so they're sitting there, and then the camera goes all static, and that's the end of the movie. There you go. So you never see them die, but presumably, you know, the kids kill them. But that's what I mean. The whole movie, I was like, all right, the kids are going to end up killing the parents at the end. And then when they had that moment where it looked like the mom was going to stop them, I was like, oh shit, maybe, you know, maybe they'll get out of this. But no, it just ended the same way, you know, that you imagine. Once again, there's the whole thing with the dragon. That's the most interesting thing to me throughout the whole movie is the dragon story and the kids clearly being a supernatural entity, because you know they're able to just absorb those fucking pill gases like nothing. Um, but besides that, it was very much. It was like I, you know, going as far back. I mean, The Omen, the kid killing fucking animals, and just you know, it's just you've seen it. You know, you know what I mean. Like there was just nothing new about it. So there you go. I couldn't find a budget or anything for this movie, by the way, but I don't imagine it was a lot. I mean, there wasn't anything too crazy in here, but you know. Uh, let's do best of, worst of. My best of is gonna be when the dad turns the camera back around and the two kids are standing there at the bed and they're like pissing themselves, because that was the first instance where like, oh, something fucking weird is going on here. Um, but you never like come to find out. Well, not you don't come to find out what it is, but it just you know it never sort of paid off how I wanted to. But that was still a cool ass moment, and so that's my best of. Worst of. I don't know. What could it be? Yeah, worst of is gonna be the guy filming his kids when they're raking in his racist Asian Asian accent that he was doing for some reason. Cause yeah, it was just a useless. I was like, what's going on here? But yeah, that's it. That's Home Movie from 2008. Like I said, it's not good. It's not terrible. So, you know, go watch it if you want to. 76 minutes. Boy, howdy, is 76 minutes a great fucking runtime. More movies should do it. But, you know, they're like, we gotta make everything 2 hours. And it's like, why though? We have things to do. And most of your movies aren't fucking worth 2 hours. So yeah, it has that going for it. But besides that, that's the end of Home Movie. Next week, like I said, we should be watching Near Dark. The DVD should be here. Hopefully it fucking works and I didn't get fucking scammed and it's not going to be a working disc. But if it does work, the next week should be Near Dark. Hopefully that episode should actually be out on Friday if my work does not fucking fuck me over again. And yeah, go check out the gaming channel. What came out? Resident Evil Shadow of Rose DLC video came out. Finished that up. Me and Maverick, I think later today, are gonna try to play some more of Saints Row. So hopefully a video of that should be pretty soon. Yeah, and besides that, that's about it. Yeah, go check out that stuff. See you guys next week for Near Dark. Yeah. Bye-bye.